Hello, everyone. Great to see you all joining our Wrapping Up Data Integration Week webinar. Today, we're going to talk about how to bring the power of your data to AI with Ted Orme. But before this, let's quickly review today's on-demand materials. So today, we have a very focused AI customer case from HARMAN. I guess you all know the GBL AirBots. So that's the company and how they are leveraging ChatGPT for their analytics. Please take a deep dive and read. Today we are also discussing how to build generative AI initiatives and why right data is what you really need to support all this stuff. As for the practice and hands-on materials, we have two really good and step-by-step videos on Talend Cloud concerning data preparation and magic fill. I also encourage you to look through the deep dive materials. We have some amazing ebooks there and also some really amazing podcast content with visionary voices in AI. Please follow the link. There is not only the podcast, but also a bunch of really interesting materials concerning AI. So now the stage is yours, Ted, actually.
Firstly, I just want to thank everyone for their participation and involvement with this Data Integration Week. It's really great to have our partners and our customers and those prospects here much more of a deep dive into the overall platform, much more to understanding about the use cases, about the different challenges that organizations face, and about how really in combination of working with our partners, in combination with our customers of coming together, we really help bring the bigger picture of getting the value out of data in a governed, controlled way in driving that next generational, both analytics use case, but also business process of helping organizations with their most complex use cases. So today, I'm going to be talking more about where we're seeing the industry going, where we're seeing the industry evolve in these newer use cases around Gen AI, and understand first a little bit of background about what is it, and the changing technology around us that that is dominating both the media and the news, but also the sort of the tech landscape in which we work in today. Traditionally, we've been in this space for analytics for many years, in answering business questions, in building out visualizations and dashboards and reports, helping the business get access to the data they need. From both an integration perspective, from our Talend portfolio and Qlik integration, as well as our analytics, it's about those customers' use cases, about getting value out of data. And where we see the evolution become in that AI in the last 5-6 years has come then that what I would call analytics was very, I'm going to be flippant for a moment, and sort of bean counting. How many units did we sell? What is the revenue that we've done? It's a sort of a simple question. AI brought the idea of the art of the possible. What is there? What works well, even better if? What would happen if I did this? What would happen if we did this? What changes could there happen if interest rates moved or supply chains happened or this? And this is where models and the idea of predictive analytics came to the market, working alongside analytics. And Qlik have been leading the way in this space for many years, in that we've brought together both the AutoML components for model-driven design and our analytics platform together. And now the world has changed again with Gen AI. And Gen AI, it's not a replacement. It's not as though the analytics world was doing it wrong. What is Gen AI is a newer model that actually in its core is it's answering questions to give you the full context of everything around the analytics. Generative AI can build BI. Generative AI can build the models and the AI frameworks. So it accelerates the creation of analytics use cases. It accelerates the use cases further. One key part within the Gen AI that you need to understand is that by its nature, in the core of everything that it's doing, it creates, it generates. This is very, very good on one side, but on the other side, if it doesn't have the data, if it doesn't know your business, if it doesn't know something, it will make it up. It does this by design. This is what's called hallucinations. This is where understanding that the creative engine within Gen AI at the heart of these LLMs, and we'll come to some more of this, it wants to create something. So if it doesn't know something, it will infer, and it will guess. Now, in the world of BI, if you want to know how many cars did we sell last year, if you don't know the answer, don't guess. And this is where the conflict we see through hallucinations, through LLMs, through understanding the context of data. And a lot of this is where we AI ready. This is where our foundational message, we're coming to the market in helping organizations say, are we AI ready to use Gen AI to help our investments, to help our business do something different? So this is really where, from an integration point of view, we have for many years been doing traditional BI for analytics, data warehousing, all the way back, when Teradata in the early 80s launched the first data warehouse. You needed to create ETL to move data from transactional or operational systems, OLTP systems, into third normal form data warehousing and data marts. And that is where many organizations are still today, creating data marts on-premise on SQL Server or in the cloud, in Snowflake and Redshift and Google BigQuery to answer analytics use cases, transforming data to make it analytics ready within the framework of a warehouse. The evolution of this platform evolved to the cloud and what we call very much the lake house, where answering multiple use cases, not just one use case, but also machine learning and AI. And the middle there is where we see organizations like Snowflake and Databricks, Microsoft and Azure, and this, bringing all of this into a centralized repository. But it may have streaming technologies like Kafka. It may have big data platforms like Hadoop or Spark or engines in there, as well as the warehouse. So it's a multi-framework to support multiple use cases. And now at the bottom, we're seeing this newer technologies around Gen AI. And ultimately, it's around vector databases and RAG applications, comes to this in more details, and LLMs, large language models, in order to create a much larger pool of data to answer complex use cases and more analytics. All of these are legitimate endpoints. We're not getting rid of the warehouse. It's not as though the lake house is moving away from use cases. And the Gen AI is just another platform on top of this, supporting the outcome of using valuable data within the enterprise. So ultimately here, the rise of there isn't any news article that we don't, almost every conversation I'm having with large enterprises today, it's about understanding what is your strategy around Gen AI. How are you using Gen AI, or how will Gen AI change the industry in which you're working in? Everything from call centers to supply chain to financial organizations and insurance, understanding how the impact of Gen AI is going to affect each part of an organization, but also the bigger picture of being able to bring new services and be more agile to the market. It's a massive opportunity. And this is why Microsoft with OpenAI, AWS, Anthropic, Snowflake with Arctic, and all of the big cloud providers are investing heavily in this to help customers, again, get value out of the data they hold. And Qlik, we are unique in the market for being independent of those providers, working alongside them, supporting them, but bringing you the best of all of their platforms and bringing the best of our value add of integration and the analytics that can then support not one use case, but many across multiple cloud platforms. And this really is where we'll see our differentiating in the market to support these. So let's talk a little bit about where LLMs and the large language model sits within the platform itself. Traditionally, in the lakehouse, the warehouse environment, the compute, the engine that drives the analytic workload is within your control. You're putting the data into a warehouse, you're delivering the analytics ready into Databricks in their medallion architecture, wherever that may be, and then you're running analytics on that. The LLM models are different in that they are huge, large language. They are, I mean, the amount of compute and storage within these is mind-blowing. They're petabytes of storage and compute that are sitting outside of your enterprise. And you send a question to it, and it gives you a response. The key point here, though, is that the LLMs themselves do not understand your business. It's not as though you are building out a data warehouse in an LLM. Your warehouse is still your corporate data, and you need to be able to link your corporate information to the LLM to get context, to get the power of these newer platforms, but leveraging the work that you held within your internal corporate framework and traditional BI and AI platforms that you're building today. And as such, this is where the need for combining corporate data and LLM then prevents these hallucinations, prevents these methods of just guessing the answer rather than having true context. And this is where you'll see the role of what's called a RAG application, retrieval augmented generation. That's the phrase work of what it means. But RAG is seen as being the gateway, the interface between corporate structured and the context of all of your internal data and the LLM framework that sits to get the value out of these large language models. But ultimately, though, the cost for these LLMs, there's a lot of costs associated with what's called training enablement to bring the data up to a corporate level. All right. A couple of slightly technical architecture slides, just to sort of deep dive to understand how these RAG applications and how these models are built. The first stage in the model is what's called the model training, in being able to test the model, test the framework itself against your corporate data. So the traditional transactional our Qlik Talend data fabric is the key parts of moving data, any data from any system, CDC real-time data, transforming it, making it valid, making it analytics, making it AI ready, that then lives within Snowflake, Databricks, RDS, or the Microsoft Fabric or SageMaker, and then your model, you're training the data against your corporate data to match whether or not, historically, the model is being predictive and meets the needs of what you're trying to build today. And then the next stage is when it rolls into production. And there are two sort of patterns that we see: a lightweight RAG here, and then a full RAG application. Okay, so a lightweight RAG is a framework that, when I interact with data, or when I interact with an organization, I often do that via a mobile phone or via a chatbot, and it's always components that during a transaction, I book a flight, I've paid for something, I'm buying a cinema ticket, or I'm doing insurance. The transaction sits within the application, but then I'm interacting with a company, I'm interacting with the business via an application or via some code. And this is really where you need to bring operational data through CDC, change data capture, stream real-time data to the cloud platforms before the interface between a user and the data sits within that RAG application where it generates the answer. This is really more what we see. The full RAG is where we see most organizations, and this is where the vector database sits. A vector database is the part that takes all of the corporate data itself and gives a vector to that. Every word, every function, every sentence is broken down into a vectorized format, so that then you can match multiple queries to multiple questions and multiple answers. It takes the analytics work out of the data to make that usable within the LLM. And then the context of the query and the context of the corporate data. When I buy a cinema ticket and I send a question into an organization, It wants to know how many other cinemas, how many other movies have I seen? Do I often go with my family? Is there other things? Have I often bought other things at the same time? All of that context of me as a user and the transaction is then sent to the LLM, and it can then recommend, oh, maybe you would like this movie, maybe you'd like to buy some popcorn, have you paid for your parking? The generative part of that is created out of the LLM. The context of who I am and the transaction is delivered to the LLM out of corporate data. That is really where the two interfaces sit. So how do we see these things run, and how do Qlik Talend and our Qlik Talend data fabric support this? Our uniqueness in the market is that we can do CDC, change data capture, out of transactional systems, Oracle and SQL, DB2, mainframe, SAP, all of the operational systems that our organizations run today, as well as all the unstructured data, all emails, all Wikipedias, all sentiment data, all manuals and documents, whatever that may be. We can bring all of both transactional and unstructured data through our data fabric to create data products that then we can deliver into these vectorized, these LLM-ready platforms. We ourselves are also launching, through our acquisition of Kindi, our Qlik Kindi platform, which is our unstructured LLM RAG framework that sits underneath our analytics platform. And then a user comes and asks a question. Here I'm coming to ask the chatbot, what other cinema tickets would you recommend? The question is then sent to the RAG application with context. Ted has asked this question, what would you say? The context is sent back saying Ted has seen these movies over these last years doing this, and then the LLM is collating all of that information with context to give an answer. The creative mode of LLMs, the understanding that we can build sentiment analysis across huge amounts of data that is living within the larger LLM platforms, combined with the context of the user, combined with corporate data, combined with information that lives only within the framework of the cinema or the car manufacturer or the supply chain or finance, or whatever the use case may be. That is really where the right data in the right place to that format is critical for creating these LLMs, these Gen AI platforms. So that's from the technology point of view, but what is that data foundation? And this is where a great bit of analysis and review that I was at the Gartner Symposium event just at the end of last year. Actually, there was another Gartner event just 2 weeks ago in London. And Gartner did an analysis and did a questionnaire out to 6,000 CIOs. And one of the opening questions was, do you believe that your data strategy is AI ready? Out of 6,000 CIOs, only 4% thought that their platforms were AI ready for this wave of technology that is coming at them. The rise of ChatGPT, LLMs, and all of the different technologies that now probably all of us are using day to day. We've all tested and had a look, oh, can you create this? Can you do this? But within the enterprise, within the framework of corporate business, when is your business ready to use these technologies to help you innovate and drive change within the organization today? And this is really where we have some guiding principles, helping organizations build out the framework to understand, are you ready, and what are the right things you need to do to make sure that your data platforms are driving a change within the organization to help you leverage these newer technologies. And each of these frameworks have certain components within it. So let's walk through these before we get to what we call our trust score and understanding, are you as a corporate ready to build these types of platforms? The first one is diverse. This is really where, if you're going to look and answer a complex question, don't just look at a single source. Don't just go to your transaction, Salesforce, and only do that. Because a customer is much more than just the transactions. The customer has information around them that may be geographical, where they live, or are understanding age and differences between that and the systems, understanding diverse systems, understanding where all the data can come together, that will really help an LLM and these modern AI platforms give a more informed generative response, as opposed to just say that that Ted is this age person that bought this single transaction. So bringing all of your data together is the first framework to understand, are you building out complex use cases to answer multiple platforms today, so multiple use cases. The second is how timely, how up to date is the data. And this is really where a framework around CDC is critical. Change data capture is bringing real-time transactional systems into your platform. If I've just bought an insurance policy online, or I'm just buying that cinema ticket, and I go to the chatbot and I ask a question, that chatbot needs to know that I've just bought a ticket to the new Dune movie, and understand then the output needs to be in context of a transaction. The only time I ever really interact with organizations is at the point of transaction, when I've done something or I'm driving something. So real-time data, continuous data processing is really critical for these applications, so they have the right context and they can give the right recommendations within the platform itself. Is the data accurate? I think we had this on yesterday, the day before webinar about is data profiling and data quality and data observability. These are critical questions. The right data at the right time is really important. And if you can't have clear data lineage, if you don't know where that data has come from, how can you truly trust the output, the generative output? That if you ask an LLM, because how much revenue did a company make? And the LLM platform has just gone to someone's tweet and pulled that data and published that as being the source of truth. That doesn't really give you any trust in that data. Whereas if the lineage comes all the way back to the financial reports that were sent by the CFO in the quarterly NASDAQ reports, lineage and trust of that data is critical before you're making any business outcomes, before you understand the context of the answer that these Gen AI platforms are creating. Security is going to be critical, I think, over the next year or so. Many organizations are going to make mistakes. Many organizations are going to make mistakes around the use of LLMs and these newer technologies, because it's very easy to ask to use these platforms. Open up ChatGPT and send it a question. But how many people are maybe accidentally sharing information, sending a spreadsheet to ChatGPT and asking, can you show me highlights out of this? Corporate data, we have been for decades now being really, really careful about building walls around the data that is valuable to us. And now these cloud platforms, these LLM platforms are so prolific and are so easy to use. How does that actually fit between a security conscious mind and the power of these LLM platforms? And we're still now building out the right framework that you can, the context of the data, the security frameworks around that, to be able to use the power of LLMs, but still have it within the corporate structure of protecting that sensitive data. And Qlik, we've been challenging these requirements for decades. From the first time that you're building out a Qlik Sense app and understanding who has access to that, who is building out apps, who has visibility to dashboards and reports, that same trust, that same protection of the data and security is also embodied within the framework of building out these new Gen AI, these new LLM platforms. And then understanding, what data do we have? What data do we have in what format? I think everybody in any organization has that experience where they just didn't know about certain sets of data. They didn't know that maybe that John in accounts had certain environments, certain platforms, certain use cases that I've been trying to answer a question for ages. Understanding silos of data. Silos of data live within production systems, but they also live within the line of business, that different teams often are gaining different insights out of that same data. So it's really critical to be able to have data that is both discoverable, have business glossary, have a semantic layer, so that organizations can search and find the data that is valuable to an organization. This is this methodology more around the data fabric supporting a data mesh, and the data products methodology, where a data product itself has value and can be reused and shared to drive more use cases within an organization. Discoverable data, the right data for the right use case, is where we're helping organizations. Again, a key foundation layer, but are you AI ready in the platforms today? And finally, the LLM component. Have you got the technology? Is it the vectorized unstructured data, the vectorized, bringing the right context to these newer technologies? The first five components here are very, very similar to priorities, whether or not you're building a data warehouse on premise. You're still going to go through those. So the last one, the LLM component, is the last leg of the pipeline, the last leg of the framework to get the right data in the right format. JSON, structured data, and vectorized database, chunking data, unstructured data within Pinecone or within Snowflake Cortex. Getting the right data in the right format for these newer technologies is the last leg of a foundation layer. Are you AI ready? And we are just in the process of launching now, bringing this all together, our new AI Trust Score, so that you can understand, are your platforms, the pipelines you're building, the data that you have, the framework that you have ready for these newer LLM platforms. And our new Trust Score for AI is going to be launched in the next couple of weeks in helping organizations understand, are you ready for this next wave of technology? So let's have a look at that in a little bit more detail to understand then from Qlik perspective how we're helping organizations. The one slide that where organizations are sitting today, there is data that corporates have that sits within silos, operational systems, on-premise or in the cloud, Oracle, SQL, DB2, Salesforce, SAP, or SaaS applications like Marketo and the likes, or ADP. And we can bring that data, move it, transform it, govern, trust it to make it analytics ready data, to build applications, to build analytics, AI, machine learning, to drive action. The outcome, doing something with the data, is where ultimately we're helping organizations. This end-to-end flow, this end-to-end pipeline is where Qlik are really unique in the market and independent of the cloud platforms, independent of our partnerships with Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Snowflake, and Databricks. We work on-premise and in the cloud with a cloud-first strategy, but not cloud only, helping organizations on that journey to leverage technology that sits in that modern cloud platforms, the modern LLMs. And this is really where the Qlik Talend data fabric sits in delivering the right data for the right use case. And just from an architectural marketing side, this gets quite busy, but just understand then what you are building today and why. The first choices often are about which platforms you're building. Which are these newer LLM platforms? These are technologies like Bedrock or Dolly, OpenAI, Microsoft, Databricks, Amazon, Gemini is on Google, Llama, Bloomer are open platforms that run across them. The large language models are the newer Gen AI platforms. Which technology stacks are you working on in the combination of on-premise? On-premise and the cloud is where we see organizations running today in a hybrid and defining a use case. What use cases do you have to put that workload in the cloud? Or is the use case still predominantly an on-premise use case, helping still complex workloads of moving data between transactional systems and warehouses or operational platforms that are within the data center today? Understanding the use case is critical for then helping when is the right time to use cloud technologies and when is the right time to keep it on-premise for complex workloads. And within Qlik, with the combination of talents, our Qlik Talend data fabric is where we're helping organizations, like I say, move data, any data, through CDC, streaming, batch processing, transforming that data anywhere, on-premise through an ELT framework with transformation SQL push down into the cloud, or ETL functions within the data center, or ETL functions within our cloud. That multimodal of giving you the choice of where the transformation sits before the overall governance and control for security, aggregate governance, enrichment. Is that data trustable? Who else is using that data? Bringing the right data to the use case, building out this idea of a data product, because the data itself, combined with lineage, combined with quality, is the data that the business needs. The business will then come to that marketplace and consume that data product to build different types of use cases, to drive outcomes, to drive that ultimate endpoint, to drive value out of the data in which we are delivering within the platform itself. So I'm going to finish there on this one slide also, just to give an overview of then what data do we have in what format, how are we moving that data, not what for one use case, but many, and understanding where AI and Gen AI is a new platform where organizations are still asking the same questions, but now are using a technology through generative AI to create outcomes, to create those use cases, but only with the context of your corporate data. How you bring your corporate data to these newer platforms are where you're going to differentiate in the market, where you can really gain competitive advantage in whatever industry you're working in today, in leveraging the power of the cloud, the power of LLMs, and also bringing your corporate data, your transactional data to these platforms to drive business outcome. Let me stop there and open it up to any questions or any comments that you'd like to learn more. Because like I say, we have a lot of content. There's a lot of more use cases, more sort of outcome of how we've helped other organizations. But it is still very new. I would say what's the feedback from Gartner just last week is that the industry itself of Gen AI is evolving pretty much every 6 months. Every 6 months, the technology stacks are faster and better and bigger. And this technology is evolving, and the power of the platforms is evolving very, very fast. But the foundation layers are still there. Fundamentally, those foundations have been built on 20 years of experience through analytics, through the data warehousing, through data quality, governance, and control. Those same principles are critical for these newer platforms that people are building today, these newer use cases. But how we leverage that and enhance these to bring a newer use case with RAG applications, LLMs, with OpenAI, Anthropic, and Llama, and Dolly, and the like, is where we really are helping organizations through that complex, navigating a complex technology stack that is changing really, really fast. So with that, I'll say thank you very much and open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Ted. I actually have one more question concerning the data from Gartner Symposium that you've given. Like 4% of CIOs said that their data strategy was AI ready. What's your feeling how this tendency can change over the next years, and how quickly companies can become AI ready with their data if they choose so?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the fear at the top level of organization is that they haven't yet seen the use cases. And what Gartner also created was a really nice, what they call Gen AI target. What they called it is just, and on one side they had everyday AI, so sort of internal processes, and on the right hand side they had game-changing AI. Those just, and on the bottom of the target they had internal, and on the top they had external. So now you think of this target, this sort of circle, Gartner visualization. So bottom left is sort of everyday and internal. So these are use cases like automating email processing, order to cash process, tasks that we do every day that are quite repetitive, that Gen AI and automation platforms can replace our internal process to make us more efficient. And then the other side is internal, but doing better things with data. So these are where we can sell more, we can do more. The right-hand side was game-changing AI. And this is the part that CIOs, they like that side. They like the idea that we are going to be we don't want to be Betamax. We want to be Netflix. We don't want to be selling older, systems. We want to be selling the newer cars, newer platforms. And here also internally, how is our whole organization changing? And then Gartner top right, Gartner always likes top right as being the most important part. That is really where we saw game-changing and external use cases. And these are those types of platforms. There are a few in the education space that they highlighted, or in the roles of data, drug testing and drug tests. If Gen AI external processes can build newer ways in order to test and evaluate new drugs to the market. Drug markets typically take about 10 years to a new market. But if we can bring that down to a year, post-COVID and post, we had really innovative ways in which we can try and bring new vaccines and new markets to the market. But now the whole industry is looking at how we can change an industry to meet newer use cases and use these newer technologies to help them. The context is still bringing your data, bringing corporate data, best practices to these platforms. And that is really where organizations are investing in doing things different and driving change within whole industries that in 10 years' time will look back and say, okay, this was a pivotal moment that a whole industry changed because of a technology.
Great, thank you. One more question. Do you have an example that you have been able to organize and structure data using AI? For example, address data where previously there was no defined standard and address data was entered into a single text field, etc.
Yep. So this is exactly. So what I was talking about today was talking more about outbounds, talking about Gen AI and about organizations doing things. I haven't talked, and again, maybe it's a different slide deck, about how we internally are using AI within our platform to accelerate the use cases that we drive today. And Qlik Connect is only about 10 days away. And you'll see on the main stage of Qlik Connect and some of the videos around that and things, the power of AI that we are using internally within our platform. So within our integration platform, we move, we transform, we govern, those three buckets. We are also launching within there, using LLMs and using Gen AI query engines that we can say, build me a data mart based on product and ID and region. And we will automatically create all the SQL code needed in order to generate an ETL framework for doing that. Or within our framework, we can just say, highlight data quality issues with this data. And it will automatically say you have data conflicts within these different postcodes, or it'll say it'll give highlights around bad data within the framework itself. So that AI trust score I showed, that AI trust score will be automatically generated, and we will ask questions of the pipelines that we have to say, where are the problems, and do you want to automatically fix them? Do you want to go into our data steward functionality to highlight who are the right people to do that? We are using AI in about 5 or 6 areas of co-pilot functionality to help organizations get the right data into the platform. Today, I was talking about creating AI-ready data sets for external use cases, but a lot of the announcements you'll see at Qlik Connect in just 10 days' time is going to be about how we are also using AI within our platform itself to better help engineers and developers get access to the right data in that right format. So stay tuned for a lot of announcements around that.
One more question, actually. Not AI related, but QDI related. Let's answer. Talend is the third generation of data processing and integration. How Replicate fits with Talend?
Yep, so just to show my allegiances in the world of integration, I actually came from the Attunity acquisition that Qlik made now 5 years ago. So I am the sort of Mr. CDC. So change data capture is a lot of my world. And then the combination of CDC and Talend is really where our uniqueness in the platform is today. So streaming CDC is taking a database with transactional logs and turning that sort of into a stream of data, real-time data that then sits anywhere. But you always need to run transformation. And this is really the combination of where Talend sits for transformation and giving you the choice. So Replicate and Talend combined We can stream data to Kafka and then run transformations downstream with Spark SQL, or we can run ELT framework of real-time data to the clouds, creating an ODS layer, a real-time transactionally consistent copy in the cloud, and then run transformations through the medallion architecture of bronze, silver, gold, or landing transformation, and wherever the T sits. And that is the uniqueness of our offering. Talend was a leader of ETL, but bringing in the real-time data and transformation and data governance and quality, that is really where our differentiation sits. We compete openly with Oracle Golden Gate and Informatica and other components around CDC. We compete directly with transformation engines like dbt and Matillion in the cloud, or we compete with others. Nobody in the market has our combination of technologies for bring real-time data, transformation on-premise and in the cloud, hybrid, both ETL and ELT, and data governance and data quality. The full end-to-end stack, nobody else in the market has that today. And that is our uniqueness of helping organizations in that newer cloud platform, as well as helping the complex workloads of the on-premise systems together. That is really where I'm really proud of where we're going, bringing the innovation together and now answering these newer use cases for LLMs and Gen AI as well. So thanks.
Thanks a lot, Ted. Actually, one more comment from me. All the attendees, you will receive one final letter on Data Integration Week with all the materials combined and all the recordings of the webinar if you just missed some of the webinars. So just you can brush up the rest. Thanks a lot for joining. And also subscribe to our newsletter on LinkedIn. In the couple of final on-demand materials we have featured this up, so to be connected and to learn our news. It's bi-weekly and it's sharing our customer cases, local events for CE market and many more. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.